Hello everyone, welcome to Res Snapper. My name's MJ and this is Snap or Pass. This is where we look at the new card each week and we discuss the spotlight cache that the card is in. We discuss the mechanics, we give you some cool deck ideas, we discuss counters, good locations, star ratings, all of that jazz. You can use the chapters below to skip to the specific chapter that you want. That's if you're incredibly disrespectful and you don't want to watch the whole video. Which I understand if you don't, especially when the host is being so rude. Anyway, Misery is a 4/7 on reveal. Repeat the on reveal abilities of your other cards here, then destroy them. Okay, let's kick things off by talking about the spotlight week that she's in. She's alongside two Series 5 cards, and she is of course a Series 5 card herself. She's alongside War Machine, who recently got a buff, and is pretty good now, in pretty cool lockdown decks with Legion, Storm, and other things. Of course great with Infernaut and Ebony Maw. Cool card, cool character, cool card. And Nomura, who definitely surprised some people when she came out with her high power levels, and she's in some great decks as well, stuff with Jeff, Cosmo, Armor. There's some really fun brews with Nomura, and she's just generally a very powerful card. Maybe slightly less so in this very clog centric meta that we're in at the moment, but in any case she's still a great card. So just overall, to me, this Spotlight week seems really solid. One of the better ones that we've got in recent weeks. And the Spotlight variant here, I think, is really strong as well. I think the base art is a little kooky, but it's cool. Anyway, that's the Spotlight caches. Let's move on to the mechanics of the card. In fact, before I start the mechanics, please subscribe. We're on the road to 2,099 subscribers, and I've got some extremely spicy content planned. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be embarrassing for me, but anyway, yeah, please subscribe and enjoy that special video we'll have when I hit 2,099 subscribers. Anyway, so let's talk about the archetypes that Misery is going to fit into. So I think she'll fit into, obviously, on reveal, the general on reveal archetype, because she's repeating on reveal, so there's going to be plenty of opportunity for her there. And then the key other archetypes are Mill, Clog and Ramp. There's some really interesting options and ways that you can re-trigger some really interesting effects with all of these archetypes. Of course, those are just the ones that I think she fits into most broadly. There will be other opportunities for her, I'm sure. So she re-triggers the on-reveal effects and then destroys the card. So it does it in that order. And the card also doesn't have to be destroyed in order for the effect to trigger. That is a bit of an edge case scenario, but it is relevant in cases like Armor and Wakanda, that type of thing. So that's cool. She doesn't destroy cards that don't have an on-reveal. That's going to be very important for scenarios. For example, things like the Hood is going to be a very good card with Misery. When you destroy the Hood, you may be in a situation where you want to play the demon down, or rather I should just say, if you've just played the Hood, you may be in a situation where you need to play the demon at the same location. Like there may be things like the Kiln, you need to get that power in there as soon as possible. So if you then play Misery on top of the Hood and the demon, it's going to destroy the Hood, give you that duplicated demon, but the demon's going to stay there. So that's really cool. That's really interesting, and it gives Misery some really cool and interesting opportunities. And the better synergies will be high impact abilities on cards with low power. So of course, I gave the Hood as the first example. We will look at key synergies and decks in a minute, but we also think about cards like White Widow that have a huge impact on the other side of the location, whereas the 2 power for you, pretty negligible. So things like that are going to feel really good with Misery. And thanks to Discord for your help with the mechanics there. Now, pros. She is a unique card, and it's a unique ability, and it's specific, and we've likely not theory crafted her most interesting opportunity. So yes, we've conjured up these thoughts of Mill or Clog or these other crazy interesting ideas, but I think we've only scratched the surface, and actually there's loads of opportunity with Misery. She's a very interesting card, and there's lots to her. She destroys things, so maybe there's destroy synergy. We'll look at some synergistic destroy cards in a minute. She is obviously repeating the on reveal. She's like a mini Odin. Odin costs 6. Misery only, Odin costs 6 and has 8 power. Misery only has 1 less power. So there's a massive potential of power there. And there's just so much she can do. It's a very interesting little package all rolled into one. Especially that element that she doesn't destroy cards that don't have an on-reveal. It's very fascinating. She may be a higher tempo, more powerful way to re-trigger abilities than existing options like Absorbing Man and Grandmaster. I say she may be, because actually, Absorbing Man, of course, doesn't destroy the cards that he's re-triggering the abilities of. Of course, there's other differences, like he doesn't need to be played at the same location, and of course he's only duplicating the last effect that you played, whereas Misery could be particularly high tempo, like that example that I've given a few times already, like the Hood. That's a huge high tempo play. You're taking away the -3 from your side. Yes, oftentimes you may want to be sending that across, but in this instance it's a big swing, and it gives you the extra 6 power from the extra demon as well. So there's things like that are just hugely powerful plays. And even if you're re-triggering things like Grandmaster, how is that going to work? Is that going to move Misery, or does Misery need to resolve before Grandmaster would move her? That's really interesting. Or would Grandmaster move something else if it's not destroyed? So maybe you would want to play your own armor down on a Misery lane. Maybe there's these interesting interactions like that. So that is the kind of thing that I mean when I'm saying there's very unique opportunities with this card, so it's very cool. And she may fit into more archetypes than we expect, for example, Destroy. Than we suspect. I think I definitely said the wrong word there. No idea what I said. Just for the record, I'm filming this at like 12 AM, so I'm not actually tired, because I've got #not sponsored, but I have got a Monster Energy Ultra Fantasy Ruby Red. This is a flavour we don't have in the UK yet. But I recently was in Florida, and so I brought it back with me, and it's like pink grapefruit. Anyway, the reason I'm up so late is because I'm recording the Snap Judgments podcast tonight, so I'm super excited, and that's in about an hour, so it's going to be cool. So listen to that. Anyway, we'll talk about the Destroy element to this card in a minute. There's some really cool cards that I think are going to fit into a really awesome deck. And it's spicy, guys. Anyway, cons. Her explosive effect makes her inflexible, so it won't always feel good to destroy cards with higher power, like Baron Zemo. So, if we're using one of the examples of an archetype that we think she might fit in really well, Mill. If you got the Baron Zemo down, you steal an on-reveal from their... Well, you steal a card from their deck. It may well be an on-reveal. You can then play Misery straight down on that location. You get the on-reveal again from the card that you've stolen via Baron Zemo, and then you trigger Baron Zemo as well, and you pull a card out. So actually you almost get the Baron triggering again, so it's not like you lose out on as many cards. I don't even know why am I saying this is a con? This sounds amazing to me. No, it doesn't sound amazing, it sounds fun. But what I'm trying to say is, it's an inflexible power. Odin obviously repeats the on-reveal effects in a similar way. It's at that location. He doesn't destroy them, though. You can play Odin down, and you rarely have to worry about what you're doing. Whereas Misery has got such vast consequences that adds so much complexity to her and so much restriction that it will make some situations very difficult, especially when we come onto the locations, which I think is the next slide, actually. But the second con, sort of not a con, I'm saying I can't think of another con. The primary con, her being inflexible, is simply quite a big one. Yeah, I couldn't really say what the other con is to this card. Like, she's a very, very powerful card, but she just has this very weird downside of destroying the cards. So that is the con with her. I guess maybe the other con is simply that there's a lot of bad locations, which we will talk about immediately. But let's talk about the good ones first. So things like the raft, where you want to fill it up, get that free card, but actually you don't want to lock yourself into that location. We've seen in the past cards like Jeff, Nightcrawler, whatever. Any way to move cards out of the raft is incredibly powerful. Or if you've got Scalers in there, I love sticking Thena or Collector in there. That's a really, really good way to do it. So that's going to be cool. That's going to be a good location. Nor Dimension is absolutely absurd with Misery. Like, Nor Dimension is a snap condition, I'd say. Like, absolutely absurd. The bad thing about those djinns or jins, it's not Jin. Is it Jin? It may be Jin. I don't know why I'm saying it's not Jin. I don't know if it's Jin or Djinn. Anyway, shout out to Golden Sun. Let me know in the comments below if you're an absolute Golden Sun person. God, that game was class. Anyway. Yeah, the Djinns re-triggering are so good, because the only downside, of course, they give you +2 energy, and the only downside is that they completely, absolutely clog the hell out of your board. So Misery is going to make more space. That's great. Negative Zone is a good one because you can get the powerful effects in there. Your opponent may think that you're potentially throwing the location, or they may be wondering why you're playing into that location perhaps. Or, of course, the clog side of this card, clog cards working well with Misery, means that you can stick stuff like the White Widow in there. They have to play stuff in order to counteract the White Widow, but they may not want to do it. Basically, it's practically an auto win. And then you can just make sure that you definitively get that location by destroying the low power that you've got on your side. And then you've got, what, the 4 power card in there from Misery, and it's very hard for them to catch that up. And then Karmatage. In fact, Karmatage. Yeah, Karmatage is just nuts, isn't it? Because not only will Misery herself trigger twice. Now, that element in itself might not actually be too relevant, but it will be in some circumstances. But the cards that you're re-triggering, will they re-trigger twice, or will they already be dead? There'll certainly be some that will re-trigger twice, or that there'll be... Yeah, no. Yeah, the on-reveals, I'm sure the on-reveals will trigger twice and then die. Yeah, crazy. Karmatage is going to be nuts with Misery. Anyway, the bad locations. There is a lot, to be honest. Basically, the bad locations are locations where you want to have lots of cards, like Muir Island and Mojo World. Misery is an absolute nightmare with those, because it basically means you have to play the non-on-reveal cards in there, of which you're not likely to have too many of them in your deck, because you're synergizing into Misery. And then cards which have restrictions or force you to do certain things. So Avengers Compound, it means that you may not want to play cards in there because you don't want to have to be forced to play Misery into there. I mean, of course, Misery is a 4-cost card, so maybe you can do your game strategy beforehand. But Grand Central, again, it's just going to be difficult. If you haven't drawn Misery, you don't want that looming over you that you'll draw on turn 5. And it's just difficult. You don't need the restrictions. Misery is already a challenging card to play and is going to require some specificity. So you don't need the added complication of being forced to play in locations. Let's talk about counters. Armor. Now, armor is a very specific counter. She's gonna disrupt the destroy element of it. So when we do get onto the decks, and I think you should consider the destroy element of Misery. I think it's going to be a very fun deck, actually. But when you do consider the destroy element of it, armor can disrupt some of that. I haven't actually mentioned the card's name yet, but Null is actually something that I think could be very interesting with Misery. And then Cosmo, of course, is going to stop the on-reveals, going to stop the destroys, going to shut down your whole game plan. Now, that being said, Cosmo is a 3/3, so it's kind of a low-tempo card. Misery is a 4/7, so base stat, it's just fine. So it's not going to totally ruin everything, but of course, it sort of will. Anyway, moving on to the key synergies and decks. I've actually got, in fact, I'm going to flash between the two slides here because I've got a bonus deck for you. So I've actually got 4 decks this episode. Anyway, key synergies. As we said earlier, the best cards to play with Misery are going to be the high impact abilities that are combined with the low power cards. Cards that you don't mind if you have to destroy them, because the value from their ability is so strong. So that is cards like the Hood. The Hood is actually one of the rare case scenarios of actually it's sort of swinging in your favour. Yes, of course, you may want to send the Hood across, so that has its own value. But if you don't, destroying it represents its own value to you, because you double benefit from its on reveal of giving you a 6 power demon, so you get 12 power. And then you're actually boosting your location by +3 as well, because you're getting rid of the -3, so that's really cool. Iceman is a strong ability on a very cheap and low power card, so that's cool. We've spoken about Grandmaster as well. The other thing about Grandmaster is that if we're wanting to duplicate on reveals with Misery, that's exactly what Grandmaster does as well. Not only does Grandmaster do that, but he also has an on-reveal himself, so it could be re-triggered. As I said earlier, though, that's going to be an interesting one to see how that interacts, because let's just say, for example, let's play out a scenario. You play the Hood, then you play Grandmaster, the Hood goes to the middle, then you play Iceman, let's say that, and then if you play Misery, is Misery going to re-trigger Grandmaster on the Iceman? And then would Misery re-trigger and destroy Iceman at the middle location and you've played it? Yeah, what's going to happen? That's going to be interesting. And then, something that we haven't touched upon, I mentioned at the beginning, is that Ramp might be an archetype that works well with Misery as well, because there's some natural lead-ins with some of the Ramp cards and natural synergies there, but maybe something like Electro. Now, Misery was actually data mined as a 5/10, so originally had a bit more power, and of course fit into the natural ramp that feels good from Electro. Playing on turn 3, you gain +1 energy, so on turn 4 you actually have 5, so with the old version of Misery you would have been able to play her then, and felt really good that you're getting a 10 power card. Now I've seen lots of people say that because she's now a 4/7, that idea is now dead. I think that's absurd. Because, yes, you are playing off kilter and you're not quite getting the most value out of it. And you're playing a 4/7, a 7 power card instead of a 10 power card. But it's not like with the previous version of that sort of theory craft. It's not like you were playing that for the 10 power. You weren't going, oh, this is amazing because it's 10 power. You were playing it to get the duplicated effect. You still get that. You unlock the... Well, you re-trigger the ability, which gives you +2 energy on the next turn. That is, of course, from turn 5. It does mean you can play like a 6 power card, a 6 energy card and a 1 energy card. And then on the final turn, you can play another 6 and then 2 energy. So it is interesting, and of course, it removes the restriction of being able to only play one card with Electro. So I still think it's interesting. And when we discuss this ramp deck that I've got for you, there are other lines that I think are very interesting as well. So one to keep an eye on. And Wiccan. What about Wiccan? Let's say you play Magic on turn 3, Wiccan on turn 4, and Misery on turn 5. On turn 6, you have got 10 energy. I mean, that is mental. Yes, you've destroyed a hell of a lot of things, but you've got 10 energy. And heck, let's go one further. Let's say on turn 2 you did Psylocke. On turn 3 you did Wiccan. On turn 4 you did Misery. That means on turn 5 you'll actually have 5, 6, 7. You have 8 energy on turn 5. No, wait, that's not even true. Well, you have 10. You'll have 10 on turn 5. You'll have 10 on turn 5. That's without the magic. There's some What I'm saying is, guys, there's some madness. This is the thing. Misery is madness. Misery affords us the opportunity to go proper mental with some ideas. Are all of those things going to be actually good? Maybe they're not going to be good. But some of them I think will be good. Some of them will be good opportunity. I think the ones that won't be truly good will be fun, at least. So I think this is a really interesting, really fun card. Let's talk about the specific decks, and I'm going to readjust myself in my chair. Not only that, but I'm going to couple it with a small sip of this delicious drink. It is delicious, it's actually very nice. So the first deck I've got for you is called Rampy Scampy. By the way, I've got a Google Docs document in the description which has got all the deck lists that I've ever made in the last several weeks. But I will keep it going. It's got like headings, collapsible headings with each of the different characters. So there's many decks in there. Enjoy them, and of course it includes Misery. So Rampy Scampy. This is a Wiccan deck. So we got Quicksilver as our single one drop, because I actually quite like the Quicksilver route with Wiccan. I actually think it works quite well, and I think it's quite fun as well. And it's just fun to get use out of cards like Quicksilver, which are literally dead, and Wiccan has given it an excuse to be played. And then hopefully on turn 2 you go into one of your 2 drops. You either do the Psylocke line, which we discussed a second ago, or of course you just play Jeff as a good card, which also has natural synergy with Electro, or you play Valentina as a card which is going to give you a discounted 6 drop, which is going to be really useful, discounted and of course depowered, but that's going to be really useful later on if you do trigger Wiccan and you have this extra energy. Actually gives you something to spend that extra energy on, and it could be something really powerful. Not only that, but hell, maybe the ramp side of things doesn't quite come together. Maybe you just want to re-trigger Valentina and you get that extra discounted 6 cost card, which is maybe an alternative win line that could be super fun on turn 5 and 6. So there's cool stuff there. And then on turn 3, hopefully you go into one of either your Wave or Electros, which is your ramp route into either the Misery or the Wiccan. Lots of different routes there. Or So you either do that, you re-trigger the ramp, you got loads of energy, and you can spend that energy on things like Doom, Magneto, Leader, these very powerful effects. But you could also do things like wave into Leader on turn 4, and then on turn 5, Misery on the Leader, and you copy it again. And then why don't you do Odin on turn 6? There's lots of very interesting and very cool lines in this deck, so I think this actually looks very interesting and very fun. So that's my ramp deck. Next deck I've got for you is called Your Torture is Their Misery. This is a hellish deck, absolutely disgusting. In terms of the archetypes, I've listed this as being deck disruption hand. So I'm sorry, the energy drink is making me gassy. Oh my god, give it to me, Danielle. Sorry, sometimes I just say things. I should. That was inappropriate. I apologise. Your Torture is Their Misery. So I've listed this as covering several archetypes: deck disruption, hand disruption, and clog. This has got Hood, Iceman, Korg, Master Mold. So we're sticking rocks in their deck, we're sticking Sentinels in their hand, and we're pumping good stuff into our hand. These are all a mixture of high impact ability stuff, like we talk about getting those extra demons is cool, getting those Iceman re-triggers and freezing up their hand is really cool, and sticking rocks in their deck, and hell, sticking Sentinels in their hand. Misery on top of Master Mold. Oh my god, you're making their life hell. But then we've also got White Widow in here, and we've also got disgusting ability. Re-triggering Black Widow. Oh, this deck is horrible. We have also got Viper. Viper's going to be good to play on either Hood or something like Master Mold or White Widow, where we don't want a 2-power card. And then the sort of the ultimate goal with this deck is that after you've played Misery and you've repeated those horrible decks, it's just ruining their hand, it's ruining their deck, it's freezing them up, it's clogging them, it's doing rocks, just all manner of horrible, nasty stuff. On turn 5, you then play into either your Darkhawk if you've stuck a load of rocks in their deck, or Ronan if you've stuck a load of Sentinels in their hand, or Widow's Bites, etc. Or if they've had to play the Widow's Bites and maybe you're reclogging them, that's another way to win as well. But anyway, you play one of your powerful ongoings, and then on the final turn, you either play the other one, or you play Mystique and Rock Slide or whatever, or maybe it's a final turn Misery to re-trigger a Korg, or a Rock Slide to boost up a Dark. Loads of opportunities there. So God, honestly, I just look at this deck and I'm like, that is evil. And the curve is so good as well. You got like 3 1s going into 2s. You got a couple of, like, several really good 3 costs. Now, what do you do if you don't draw Misery? You've just still got great other options. The Hood is going to give you that demon. You could do that. Viper across the... this deck, honestly, looks... I actually feel sick that I've made this deck. Anyway, third deck for you is Misery. Now, when I posted my image of this, I gave Discord a little preview of this image. And so I can't remember their name, but they said they came up with the name Misery. Well, great minds think alike, yeah? I just want to say, I didn't copy, but I do appreciate and acknowledge that someone else came up with the idea. Is it Inked Seritage? This isn't their name, but it may have been something like Inked Seritage. That's a weird name. I don't think it was that. Anyway, Mill. So we've got Spider Ham in here. An element to shut down or turn off something in their hand. Or worsen, I should say, something in their hand. We've got Yondu. We've got Cable. So we're stealing cards. We're destroying cards. We're also destroying cards with Gladiator, potentially. Now, Gladiator is an interesting one. I don't think you necessarily want to play Misery on top of Gladiator. But it's something that you can do. It's an option. We've got Magic in here to extend the game, so we're going to get more resources, especially because it gives us more time to play the cards that we're stealing with Cable, especially the duplicated cards that we're stealing from Cable, because we've actually got a few ways to duplicate as well. We've got a few ways to duplicate Cable's ability. It's always weird saying duplicate in the context of a superhero thing, because I'm a massive Invincible fan, and Duplicate is a character in Invincible. That is me getting sidetracked. I apologise. If you haven't watched Invincible, you should watch it. If you haven't read Invincible, you should read it. We've also got Baron Zemo in here, so we can play Yondu. Maybe, in fact, we play Yondu and then we re-trigger Yondu with Symbiote Spider-Man. That's the character that I meant to mention a minute ago. Sorry, you can duplicate the ability with not only Misery, but also Symbiote Spider-Man. So maybe we destroy a couple of cards via Yondu. their lowest cost cards, of course, and then we play a later game Baron Zemo and we steal something better than a 1 or 2 cost. Maybe we'll steal a 3 cost and it's a really high value, high tempo play. That's really cool. But what does the end game look like with this deck? Well, you can move into turn 5 with a Black Bolt, and so you've already stolen cards from you've destroyed cards from their deck, and then you just get rid of the stuff in their hands. So that's really good. But if we've got a turn 7 rather, maybe we play down a Null and do the classic Null Arnim Zola play. Or maybe, just maybe, we play Null and then we play Arnim Zola on Misery, and then you're copying stuff all over the show and really pumping up Null and moving power around. Maybe that's the thing. That's probably coping a little bit, or not even coping, that's probably just a shit line. Anyway, yeah, this new version of Mill is going to be very interesting. And then let's move on finally to the last deck for you, which is Fast Track Cloggers. I've called it. This is just a pure clog deck, but a little bit different. So we've got really strong 1-cost cards in here, like Silver Sable and the Hood. Now, do you want to play Misery on top of Silver Sable? Probably not, to be honest. But it's not going to do crazy amounts of harm. Getting the extra -2 power onto one of their other cards, it may be worthwhile because this is a clog deck. And you've got lots of ways to clog them, because we have got Viper in here, we have got Debris, we've got Hood, we've got Hawkeye Kate Bishop, so we're going to be praying for that Acid Arrow, we've got White Widow, and then the interesting sort of upper end of this deck is things like Man Thing. We've got Man Thing, which can knock down the power on those rocks that Debris creates, or maybe it can knock down the power on Spider Ham, and then we can also play Viper onto that in the later turn if we wish to, or we can also do things like Cersei, maybe do a surprise Cersei, or we do Man Thing into a location which has already got a rock, maybe it's already got the Hood, maybe it's already got something like White Widow or Spider Ham, and then you can play Annihilus and send over those negative cards, and then on the final turn maybe you've got the Demon from the Hood and you just cannonball and you lock down that other location with that high power play. So similar to existing clog stuff, but Misery is just ghastly in here, because Misery on the Debris is gross. It frees up extra space for you to play on that remaining location. Of course it gives you extra rocks, but you can turn those rocks into clog with either Viper, literally turn them into actual ability cards with Cersei as well. It's another dirty card. Misery is such a dirty card. Anyway, let's move on to the star ratings. Overall, do you know what? I think in my season preview video, I think I gave her 3.5. As you can see, I've rated her 4. Whilst I've been making this Snapple Pass video, these slides, my opinion of her has just gone up so much. I think she's got so much potential. I think she actually has a very interesting and unique power set. And I do wonder if generally among the community, we've been, up until this point, we've been underrating her a little bit. She just pumps out so much power. She has so much ability. Being able to re-trigger on reveals, it's such a powerful effect that it currently exists only on Odin. You know, in the similar way, one location re-triggering, all of them re-triggering multiple on reveal. You know, it exists on Odin as a 6/8. She costs 2 less and she's only 1 less power. Surely that's good. So within these archetypes, Clog, Mill, maybe Ramp, I think she's a very good archetypal card. So I've given her 4.5 there, because she really is going to be a key piece in those decks. I think Fun, I've given her 4 stars. I think she is going to be a lot of fun. She got the element of destroying cards, so she releases Endorphins when you play her. That, you know, she's very interactive. She does a lot of stuff in addition to the destroy. Of course, she re-triggers the on reveals, so she will release Endorphins, and that means she is a fun card. And competitive, I landed on 4. As you can see, I kind of cheated because I also put 3.5 there, somewhere in that range. I think she generally will be a competitive card. I have come up on her. So is she a snap or pass? She is a snap. I think she's a great card. I'm going in this week. For me, this is a spending keys week because I need Namora. So I'm going to be hoping for the 2-bang. I don't get 2 bangs, guys. I get 4 bangs. So I'm going to get... My guess would be that I'll get random card, and so it'll be 1,000 mystery tokens in the first cash. Then I'll get War Machine. Then I'll get Namora, and then I'll get Misery. That'll be my predicted order. Anyway, yeah, I'm definitely going in for it, guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. If you watched this far, you might as well subscribe. I appreciate that. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.